One of the main reasons is to transform and prepare people in the workforce for the near future jobs, Instead of having traditional jobs, we know that in the future we need to work with AI more closely. So that's their plan, I think.
So basically, they're trying to prepare the government for the AI era, let's say, that we're entering, or basically we're already there.
Yeah,
Makes sense. I think in order to do that, you need not just investment into all these systems and invest a lot into building that infrastructure, you also need to attract new talent or people that have been building up experience or in order to build this setup, right? So how are they planning to do that? Especially because now with Brexit, right?
hey, before we continue, I wanna invite you to our online workshop. The links are in the description, so don't miss. If you wanna build your own business idea and don't know how to start, just go to the link below, then subscribe and see you in the workshop.
Today we're going to talk about UK's ambitious blueprint for AI, a bold plan to lead the world in artificial intelligence innovation and governance. I'm Daniel,
I'm Matheus.
and this is the Human AI Experience.
Boo! Isn't falta que tu faças
I know.
transição. So, Daniel, I was reading about the UK's plan to build to be a reference in AI in the world. Nowadays, they are like behind US and China, so they wanna compete with them. So they created a really bold plan. Let's say they're planning to invest like £1 billion into the next few years, and they're building supercomputing capacities and initiatives to like analyze data and other kind of stuff related to research and AI. So I have lived in UK for a year, like in 2012. So I'm super excited with these innovations and how their vision to compete with China and US. So for me, it's kind of exciting and to see the research around AI there and then how they are planning to do that.
Why all of a sudden UK decided to be a leader in AI, and what are they aiming for? What are they goals? Their goals?
Yeah, they're actually they're feeling that they're behind China and US. So the I think the ambitions plan, let's say, is to reach the level of US in China. And I feel that some of these the reasons that they are behind is because of regulations and it's kind of and they're feeling to lose a bit of the relevance, in the world innovation, especially innovation, because as they said in the paper, that they have Alan Turing, they had the guy who created the computing and all the algorithms and everything. So they have other scientists that are important in the world, like of computing and everything. So they want to keep that status, let's say, and they want to drive like an economic growth and a public service performance. So they want to directly benefit, the all the citizens with healthcare, education, and especially in the government's systems. So a lot of what we have been talking a lot, they're actually planning to do, analyze a lot of data and really focus in some of these specific areas. And of course, one of the main reasons is to transform and prepare people in the workforce for the near future jobs. Instead of having traditional jobs, we know that in the future we need to work with AI more closely. So that's their plan, I think.
So basically, they're trying to prepare the government for the AI era, let's say, that we're entering, or basically we're already there. But okay, makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Makes sense. But how do they plan then to? Because I think in order to do that, you need not just investment into all the systems and investing a lot into building that infrastructure. You also need to attract new talent or people that have been building up experience or in order to build this setup, right? So how are they planning to do that? Especially because now with Brexit, right? it's not that easy to attract talent from Europe, for example. So what are their plans in regards to
So
this?
that's bold plan here, like in terms of innovation and research. So they are trying to attract people worldwide. So like increasing the spots or the places in the universities and putting more money in the universities and research, like driving through all these new technologies, so AI and every uh, IT university. And they were trying to develop an ecosystem where entrepreneurs and startups they feel comfortable and supported, to go there and start their own AI business, let's say. And then with all of this, they're even creating and providing funding, infrastructure. They talk a lot about creating more energy, sustainable energy, and even nuclear. That might be a little bit of a controversial part of the plan, to even like reactivate some nuclear, creating new nuclear power plants to feed the AI. And all of this, they are planning to then open a lot of opportunities for and to encourage people to go there, to move to UK, and even people that are already there to create their own initiatives.
Yeah, there's going, especially in regards to AI, there's going to be a lot of upskilling needed, right?
Yeah,
Because we're just seeing the beginning of the curve, and you need to learn these tools. You can, I mean, of course, the bar for adoption is quite low because you can just start talking to it, but actually to take good leverage of it, you need to at least be a bit efficient, or at least have a bit of knowledge on how you prompt things, right? How can you? Otherwise, you would spend a lot of time just perfecting your prompting, and then just you almost the same time as would take it for you to just do it yourself. So you have to find that balance.
yeah, and I feel that one of the key points is that they're trying to develop technologies, especially with the governmental area, like to analyze data, because I feel that we generate a lot of data, especially for the government to take care of a lot of data. So I feel that they want to keep track of this information more clearly, and then make it more from the data that they are creating and collecting. So that's an interesting point of view, like how they are planning to implement this type of AIs. And it's interesting to see, like in the beginning of the paper, they address like some strengths and weakness. So they are kind of trying to understand how they can apply it, these things, and which are the parts that they need to put more effort in to get better. So that's a really interesting way and a point of view to lead where to invest and where to just develop what you already have.
What are the strengths and weaknesses then that they have already? They have identified in this assessment.
They said, and we all know that they have an academic excellence. So UK is already well known worldwide to have good AI research and engineering talent retainment. And then they want to build a vibrant startup scene. So they want to keep all this skilled entrepreneur workforce and grow investments in capital and in key areas. And they want to establish industrial leaders. They want to create these global AI pioneers. And then they want to, of course, use in the government. So they want to be a leadership of using AI in the governance area. And the weaknesses actually is that they are lacking of sufficient computational power compared to other global leaders. So they are in the third place. So they know about that. They need to streamline the regulation to support innovation, ensuring security. In the sub part of the plan, they talk about strategic focus points. So they have like five or six the focus points that they wanna really develop within the country and all this. The first one is infrastructure. So they want to expand the computational power and data storage capacity, and they want to create AI growth zones. So zones that are dedicated for AI innovation, integrating technology development, sustainable energy solutions, and which is pretty much interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like growth zones. What do they mean by that? Yeah. How do they work? What do they have in mind when they talked about growth zones, AI growth
Yeah,
zones?
they want to foster energy efficient AI solutions, and they want to encourage regional economic growth through job creation and retaining talent, and of course developing the technology. And they want to promote partnerships between public and private sectors to create these innovations, especially in the data. And then that's why they created like a national data library, which for me is really interesting how they're thinking about that. So they want to centralize all the data that they have and create some sectors that are specialized in taking the specific data that they wanted to have. So for me, that was the big part of the plan.
Yeah, and it does it makes sense, right? Because I think the governments in general gather and hoard a lot of data, and they don't know how to utilize all of that. And then there's a lot of policies that could benefit a bunch of people if they could interpret that data properly, right? So to me, since you started talking a little bit about that, this UK government initiative is that is actually coming from the
Yeah,
government. It's not something that it's coming from other companies or like you look into the US. The government is not interested, more or less, in implementing those things. It's mostly that the tech companies, the big tech giants, they are driving this. And then, of course, this is gonna they're going to probably sell that service to the government later on. But this initiative is coming from the government, so it means that they are really want to start like building up this infrastructure already in the public sector, which is pretty interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I feel that the focus that they're putting in this national library is like uh, to provide like an easy access to people, so people can access easily everything that they wanna have, so about the data, and they wanna be clear in the copyright things, things that we discussed a lot, where can you access data, what kind of copyright base they're using, and then they want to standardize the way that you collect and ensuring that like quality and ethical compliances. So this kind of stuff there, I figure is super important, and the government should be involved with that. And one of the big things
Yeah,
I think that they want to keep away is like to have foreign data sources. So people, you sending your data to other countries. So it is a way of putting everything together and keeping in the country. So if you think about ultra classified documents and stuff like that.
I have the Danish reference because I live in Denmark, but like you and here everything is at least in the government sector is what highly digitalized. So everything happens in everything is actually digital. So it's quite easy to gather all this data. I don't know about the UK. You've lived there. I don't know if you had during the period you've lived there if you had actually had a bit of an idea on how they handle this kind of things. But I would assume they are a lot more old school and old fashioned in terms of maybe a lot of paperwork instead of digitalization.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite a long time. Like there have been lived there, so I think everything kind of changed like since 2013 when I left the country. So uh, back there was a lot of physical stuff. So we receive a lot of things by mail. We need to submit a lot of stuff by mail too. So it was kind of still old fashioned, let's say. But I believe they have increased this technology, like in other countries. I lived in Sweden for 3 years, and everything was digital, as you said, like in Denmark. So it's kind of I assume that UK has followed the same pathway. But I'm just assuming. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, but at least it seems that they're trying to at least streamline that a bit. if they're not there yet.
Yeah. So I think that just to like finalize all these goals, they want to accelerate the cross economy AI adoption. So they want to create more um, talking, let's say, about between the public sector and the private sector, so, in creating scalable implementations. They want to encourage the private sector to create integration to improve like productivity and deliver better citizen outcomes. So they're always talking about that in the document, like to create stuff for the citizens. So they're trying to justify, all this plan to say like, your life is gonna get better. But I don't know how much of this is true, or how much they are actually thinking about it.
And how about the big question that we all asked, and then we've been talking a lot about in this podcast. So now, since initiative is coming from the government, how do they see job creation and displacing of workers? Because we've been talking about this, and it's a very disruptive technology.
Yeah.
So this is going to happen, but then maybe if it's coming from the government, maybe they have some ideas on how to mitigate that.
Yeah, that's a good question actually. And as you mentioned, like we talked a lot about that, and it's still not clear which is the best way. But I feel that what they're trying to do is like to upskilling and reskilling people, so creating programs to train these people to have AI related jobs. And they want to support the education system, so they are putting more places in the universities, and I think they're gonna probably create more focused universities in that, not universities, I mean like more topics about that, so um, and they want to actually encourage AI driven industries to create new job categories such as AI engineers and data ethic specialists, or probably prompt engineers will be one of the new the new positions.
Yeah.
So I think that they are trying to actually move people towards AI, so train all of the citizens how to use it, and creating options for people to learn how to use it, instead of like just fear the AI.
Were they thinking in terms of how are they planning to accelerate AI adoption in the UK industries? Are they looking into that?
Yeah, the things that they mention a lot in the document is to create a partnership between public and private sectors, and then all of this that we mentioned before, like they want to invest more money, they want to create like um, this public library of data, and they want to focus in some of the like public things, like healthcare, education, and the governmental services. They want to focus a lot in these sectors, and it is to improve the productivity and the citizens' outcomes. So they want to make the private sector to move and use more AI to be more productive, and obtain more the AI. And another thing that they were like really focusing is to position a UK as an AI maker, So they want to support the creators and then the creations of UK based AI leaders. So they want to compete with other companies like in the US and China, as like now DeepSeek is kind of one of the buzz in the last few weeks. So it's a Chinese model, like, and then OpenAI, for example, from US. So they want to compete with these companies to create um, their own AIs. So they want to ensure that UK's continue being having influence in the world, in ethical and regulatory frameworks. And they want to build like critical layers of AI stack, like reducing the dependency of the other countries in the foreign AI systems.
Yeah, they basically want to really, really position themselves as at least have the whole infrastructure and ecosystem working primarily in the UK.
Yeah,
And this the whole startup scene, which taps into that as well, because in order to grow this, they will need to invest in startups that are actually evolving these technologies, right, or at least exploring with them. And this has been the biggest complaint in regards to the EU in general. Also, is the lack of innovation, because most of these countries at some point they lack the investment that they can get from the US. And then a lot of these companies, they start in Europe, but they ended up opening up a base in the
yeah,
US, and then they stay there. And this is a big problem in general. And a lot of people blame that to regulation, but I don't think it's necessarily just that. Of course, that can play a part of
yeah,
it, but regulation is necessary. Otherwise, it's just if you don't have regulation, you have people getting impacted
yeah,
by bad agents, right? So you need that in place, and that's why pharmaceutical industry today is fairly safe, because there's a lot of regulation around. So, but I think this is something that they will need to rethink how the startup ecosystem will work,
yeah,
and will have the financial incentives to actually thrive, right?
yeah. But I think it's hard to compete. Like if you think about it, like the lack of regulations in China and US, for example. You know, if they lower all the regulations and a lot of companies start like popping up and then creating a lot of ecosystems, big ecosystems, and so if you have a lot of regulations, you can't compete in the same level. You know what I mean? So I've been thinking about regulations. In I read some people complaining about that in the EU. You know that they have so much to take care that they cannot innovate as much as they're possible to do. You know. And then, as you mentioned, some people just open offices in the US and they move the headquarters and then they can do whatever they want. So maybe that's something that we need to discuss more now. Maybe a little bit less regulations to make people innovate, of course, but I feel that it needs to be regulated anyway. You know, I don't know if I'm being clear, but I think the balance is the way. You know, not as US, but not as EU. You know, so something in between.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It needs to be more. We need to find that
Yeah,
balance, and that has it. At least at the moment, it's not. It's a bit too dramatic in both
yeah.
ends.
But the thing is that how can you control and how it should be a global regulation somehow, you know, because then you have a fair competition between everyone. But you know that this is impossible to create some global.
It's not impossible. It's just
Yeah,
hard.
it's pretty much hard.
I mean, aviation regulation is
Yeah,
global, like, and it works. So we got
yeah,
there. But usually the problem, and I think we talked about this here as well, that usually we only do this right when there's like a big
yeah,
accident, or like something really bad needs to happen for people to just wake up and say, okay, we need to do something about this. That's the bad part of
yeah,
it, because we are more reactive than proactive. And then, so hope but the problem with AI is that I don't know if we will be able to have the luxury of something really bad to happen, because if we're talking about these systems that can be automated, and it can do a dramatic, you
yeah,
know a, they can cause a huge damage before we even see
yeah.
it happening. So I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think that's what everyone's fears about AI. Like if there's no control, they can take control. You know, they will regulate us in some ways. Maybe not the way that we thought about it. So that's a crazy thing to have in our mind. So I think that's the mainly what the UK's government wants to do, And I think the next step that they want to go towards this plan is to create actionable metrics for success. So they want to measure the goals to increase AI related university program is attracting global AI people and talent and establishing new AI companies. So that's their goals. And they want to engage with public. So they want to inform and conduct discussions about how AI can impact our lives. They want to develop public facing initiatives to densify AI and address ethical concerns. I think we talked about that. And about global collaboration. So actively engaging different international allies to establish standards for AI, safety and regulation. And they want to share insights and innovations to position the UK as a global leader in the AI scenario. So I think that's the next steps and the vision that they want to share.
Interesting, especially because this is coming from the
Yeah,
government. So it might have been one of the first governments to actually be very vocal and to address this and actually act upon. So interesting to see that.
yeah, I'm really interested about everything, and the things that they talk about the AI zones. I think they're really interesting because the idea is to create a full infrastructure, so from data centers to like power plants and everything. They said that everything's going to be together, so maybe they will create like technology centers in the cities, so I want to see that. I want to see that happen and see how they're going to attract people.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on it. It seems interesting where they are going at
Yeah,
least. If that's gonna work, that's another story.
yeah.
But quite cool. Well, we reached the end of our episode today. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's free and helps us a lot. This way, it can help us also reach new listeners. Oh, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on our latest episodes. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us at hello@humanaixp.com or connect with us on Instagram. Thanks for listening. See you next week.